Welcome to Summary Shelf. We summarize books to help you grow.
We tend to assume that success with money comes down to intelligence, to how good someone is with numbers, spreadsheets, and financial formulas. But Morgan Housel makes a compelling case that this isn't true at all. Money decisions are rarely made on a spreadsheet. They're made at the dinner table, in moments of fear, excitement, envy, and pride. Housel shows, through story after story, that how you behave with money matters far more than what you technically know about it. A modest janitor who quietly built a multi-million-dollar fortune through patience, and a well-educated finance executive who went bankrupt through overconfidence. Both prove the same point. Today, we'll walk through the 10 most powerful ideas from this book, explain simply about the psychology behind our financial choices. Learning number 1. No one is crazy with their money. They're just responding to their own unique experiences. Housel explains that a person who grew up during a severe recession will see risk completely differently than a person who grew up during a booming economy, even if they're the same age, earning the same income today. Someone who lost a job during hard times may avoid investing entirely, not because they're irrational, but because their personal history taught them a very different lesson about safety than someone who never experienced that fear. Before judging someone else's financial choices as foolish, it helps to remember that we are all working with an incomplete model of the world, shaped by a small number of experiences that felt very large to us personally. Understanding this builds patience, both with others and with our own past decisions. Learning number 2. Luck and risk are two sides of the same coin, and we often confuse one for the other. Housel points out that many wildly successful entrepreneurs took the exact same risks as people who failed completely. The only difference was often circumstances entirely outside their control, timing, environment, or plain luck. Yet, we tend to study successful people and copy their exact strategy, assuming the strategy alone caused the success while ignoring the role luck played. Likewise, we judge people who failed as having made bad decisions, when sometimes they made perfectly reasonable decisions that simply met bad luck. Because of this, Housel suggests we should be cautious about praising specific individuals too much, or judging specific failures too harshly, and instead focus on broad patterns that tend to work across many different situations and outcomes. Learning number 3. The hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. Housel tells the story of talented professionals who had already achieved more wealth than they could spend in several lifetimes, yet took extreme risks trying to get even more, and lost everything as a result. The danger isn't wanting more. Ambition is healthy. The danger is not knowing when enough is actually enough. Without a clear sense of what enough looks like for you personally, there will always be someone with more, and the comparison will never end. This constant chasing can push people to take reckless risks with things they already have: financial security, relationships, reputation, in pursuit of things they don't actually need. Defining your own version of enough is one of the most protective financial decisions you can make. Learning number 4. Compounding is the quiet, unglamorous engine behind almost all great wealth. Housel highlights that the majority of famous investor Warren Buffett's fortune was built not in his 30s or 40s, but after he turned 60, simply because he had been investing consistently since childhood, giving his money decades to compound. It wasn't a single brilliant investment that made him wealthy. It was time combined with patience. Compounding doesn't look impressive in the early years. The growth feels painfully slow, which is exactly why so many people give up too soon and switch strategies. But the real magic of compounding happens in the later stretches, when small consistent gains build on top of each other in ways that feel almost sudden. The lesson here is simple, but rarely followed. Stay invested, be patient, and let time do the heavy lifting. Learning number 5. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy require two very different, sometimes opposite skills. Getting wealthy often requires taking risks, being optimistic, and putting yourself out there. But staying wealthy requires the opposite: humility, caution, and a healthy fear of losing what you've built. Housel points out that many people who achieve financial success continue taking the same aggressive risks that got them there, not realizing that survival, not aggressive growth, should now be the priority. He describes this idea using the phrase, being financially unbreakable matters more than chasing the highest possible returns. A modest, steady financial plan that you can stick with for decades will almost always outperform an aggressive plan that occasionally blows up and forces you to start over from zero. Learning number 6. Always leave room for error, because the future's far less predictable than we like to believe. Housel argues that many financial plans fail not because the underlying math was wrong, but because they didn't leave any margin for the unexpected: a sudden job loss, a market crash, a medical emergency, or simply being wrong about an assumption. Building a financial plan that only works if everything goes exactly as expected is fragile by design. Instead, wise financial planning intentionally builds in a cushion, extra savings, lower spending than technically possible, and diversified income, specifically so that when life inevitably surprises you, and it will, you aren't forced into a devastating decision. Room for error isn't a sign of weak planning. It's actually the strongest form of planning there is. Learning number 7. The person you are today will not be the same person making decisions 10 or 20 years from now, and financial plans need to account for that. Housel calls this the end of history illusion, the mistaken belief that who we are right now is our final form, when in reality, our goals, values, and priorities continue changing throughout life. Someone who is fiercely ambitious and career-focused at 25 may care far more about family time and stability at 45. Yet many people lock themselves into rigid long-term financial commitments as if their current mindset will never shift. Because of this, Housel suggests avoiding financial extremes in either direction, and instead building flexibility into your plans, since the goals of your future self may look surprisingly different from the goals you're chasing today. Learning number 8. Every reward in investing has a price, and that price isn't always paid in money. Housel compares investing in the stock market to visiting an amusement park. The thrill of long-term growth is real, but so is the entry fee, and that fee is volatility, uncertainty, and the emotional discomfort of watching your investments drop suddenly and sharply from time to time. Many investors try to avoid paying this fee altogether, pulling out during downturns, hoping to enjoy the growth without ever tolerating the discomfort. But Housel argues this fee cannot be avoided, only accepted or refused entirely. Those who learn to view market volatility as the necessary cost of long-term growth, rather than as a fine or punishment for a mistake, are far more likely to stay invested and eventually benefit from the very growth they were seeking. Learning number 9. You don't need a specific reason to save money. Saving for the sake of flexibility and independence is reason enough. Housel points out that many people only save when they have a particular goal in mind: a house down payment, a vacation, a new car. But this misses one of the most valuable benefits of savings entirely: optionality. Money saved without a specific purpose gives you the power to wait for better opportunities, to walk away from a job or situation that no longer serves you, and to handle unexpected emergencies without panic or debt. This kind of savings isn't about buying more things later. It's about buying yourself choices, time, and control over your own life. In an unpredictable world, that quiet sense of control may be one of the most valuable things money can actually buy. Learning number 10. The final and unifying lesson. Know exactly what game you're playing, because copying someone else's strategy without knowing their goals can be financially disastrous. Housel explains that a long-term investor and a short-term trader are technically playing in the same stock market, but they're actually playing entirely different games, with different rules, different time horizons, and different definitions of success. When a long-term investor watches short-term traders take huge risks and mistakenly copies their behavior without sharing their goals or risk tolerance, the outcome can be devastating. Before making any major financial decision, it helps to clearly define your own personal version of success, your own timeline, and your own comfort with risk, rather than blindly following advice or strategies meant for someone playing a completely different game than you. 10 lessons, 1 central truth. Doing well with money has very little to do with how smart you are and everything to do with how you behave. Morgan Housel reminds us that patience, humility, and a healthy respect for uncertainty will consistently outperform genius and bold predictions over the long run. You don't need a complicated formula to build wealth. You need reasonable habits that you can actually sustain for decades, through both good years and difficult ones. If these lessons shifted the way you think about money, start small this week. Save a little without a specific reason. Leave more room for error in your plan, or simply pause. The next time fear or excitement is driving a financial decision, that quiet, steady behavior, repeated patiently over time, is truly where lasting wealth comes from.